Are you guys paying attention? Are you guys paying attention? This is important stuff. Now, if you ever want to understand why people go bald, you got to know how they grow the hair to begin with. So you got to know a little of anatomy and maybe a little bit of biology. So I can help you with both of those. Now, let's look at some anatomy first. What you're going to have here is some skin. Skin's got some epidermis, and it's got some dermis, and also underneath it's got some adipose. Now, the hair of the skin is what we care about today. Hair has a growing part called the dermal papilla. It's got some stem cells in there, and it's got some fibroblasts and some early growing cells. Now, it needs some food, right? So you got an artery coming in from the adipose layer, comes up there, gives it food, and then the vein, well, the vein's gonna take away the waste. Now, as the dermal papilla grows, it's always there. It's always doing its job, just getting some blood and stuff. When the hair wants to grow, the dermal papilla is gonna start spreading out, sending some cell migration up into the matrix. Now, the matrix is where most of the hair growing comes from, and it's responsible for the root of the follicle. The follicle is what the hair grows, and then when the follicle's done growing, it shrinks, and the hair might fall out. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Hold on a minute. Now, so you got the matrix, and it starts to secrete some protein called keratin, same stuff your fingernails is made out of, and all your hair and horns on a cat. But I'm getting off track here. So the follicle grows up, starts putting in keratin, and makes this hair shaft. Now, what you got here in the dermis, over here you got this little sebaceous gland, which is a nice oil. It makes your hair soft, keeps it from being brittle, helps it grow long and luxurious. And then on the other side, you got this dermis, it's in the dermis. You got this erector papilla. Somebody spelled that wrong. Anywho, so the erector papillae hooks onto the hair, and when you get cold, pulls it up. Hair stands up straight. Won't keep you any warmer because you don't got enough fur on you. But if you're a cat, it'll make your hair stand up and make you look bigger, so people leave you alone. If you're a human, it'll give you goose pimples, I say. So, okay, now that we got some anatomy in our head, let's talk about growth, hair growth. It happens in a cycle. The first step is called anagen. Now, anagen is the most important part. I'm eating my own hair. Anagen is the most important part of hair growth. It occurs as the follicle forms out of the dermal papilla and starts to grow. It can take 2 to 6 years for the anagen phase to grow through. Can you imagine your hair growing for 6 long years? Beautiful hair. Now, what happens there is, did you know 90% of all the hair on your head? Anagen. It's all in the anagen phase. Then, when your hair gets about done growing, or the matrix is tired of doing its thing, the follicle is going to start to kind of migrate up and shrink down, and it transitions into the catagen phase. That's the transition to where the follicle is going to rest. It's going to take about 1 to 2 weeks, and then suddenly you find your hair in the telogen phase. Now, this is the rest phase. Nothing happens. Actually, that's not true. This is all getting cleaned out. There's no follicle really growing anymore. The dermal papilla is down there doing its thing, but no growing. Telogen phase takes about 3 to 4 months, and believe it or not, your hair just might fall out on its own during this phase. Did you know 100 hairs per day is what about you're losing according to the telogen phase? That's just normal. If you're losing more than that, you might be going bald. Now, when you're done with the telogen phase, this part's important. You want that hair to grow back. So you enter in the exogen phase, which could take 2 to 5 months to run through till things are rebooted and ready to get started back in the anagen phase. Why do people go bald? That's the real question here. So we looked at the anatomy. We looked at these phases. This is what happens. You start getting less anagen, start getting more telogen, your hair's just not going to grow back. You start getting too much telogen, the follicle grows back smaller or weaker or slower. Hair gets thinner in diameter and also thinner on the top. Glad I don't have that problem. And you might end up bald. So now that you know about hair growth, you might know a thing or two. Pay attention. It'll do you good.